Superconductors are just really, really cold magnets. It's pretty, when you know those trains they want to make that float? Like if they can make them a superconductor, which they have to make it cold, it would be like super efficient. You like push that thing, it would just keep going, zero resistance. Especially if you put it like underground in the tunnel, then you have no wind. You can actually suck the air out of the tunnel. Anyway, that'd be some cool transportation. I wouldn't go on it. Cool experiment if you take a magnet and stick it on some metal and take a blowtorch and heat the magnet, and the magnet will just fall off. It'll like lose its magnetism. Interesting enough, if you get water cold enough, it can have magnetic properties. The Bible describes the earth in the beginning as basically one whole landmass. Kind of like the Pangea, but it wasn't, no. Close, no. Then there's chambers of water underneath like we have now. Springs didn't have oceans. There wasn't salt water. There were no oceans. There were no huge lakes. Everything was spring fed from these chambers. And then there was water above the land. It wasn't talking about the atmosphere. There was an ice shell around the earth, held by extreme coldness, the magnetism from within that coldness. This gives you, so pre-flood is like you take the oxygen levels and increase them, the electromagnetic field, and you increase them. People have done tons of experiments on it. So one guy took a tomato plant and a baby tomato plant. They had to rehouse it like 3 times. It has its own greenhouse now. They put it in pre-flood conditions. So the growth, if you're healing, they put you in an oxygen chamber with high oxygen to help the healing process because it works so well. That's kind of what the pre-flood conditions were. It explains why people lived so long and animals were so big and the vegetation was probably so big. And looking at it from that sort of perspective. Interesting enough, around the entire planet, the Bible describes as the Atlantic Ridge breaking. Oh wait, was it the Great Deep? It was the Great Deep. That's weird because there's an Atlantic Ridge that is like the Great Deep that wraps the entire globe like a baseball seam. It's interesting. Take that from the book. From the book. Like, where did comets come from? Like they always talk about comets, these floating ice chunks through space. Where's that floating ice come from? Could it have been from the catastrophic event called the Big Bang? This explains so many things. Like the ice age that we had. If you had this water shooting up into ice, go up in the atmosphere cold and turning, coming down, a mass amount of snow coming down. You get those frozen mammoths and shit like that. You also get there's a scientific method of sorting called hydrologic sorting. And if you take a whole bunch of like all the different materials that our ground is made of today and you put them in a big thing and you mix it up, it actually layers out exactly how the layers of the stratosphere are. One guy did this. He took a whole bunch of animals like reptiles, mammals, and different types of animals, put them in a big swimming pool full of mud, basically like clay, different types of dirt, mixed them all up, and even the freaking animals sorted out the same. It's a scientific method called hydrologic sorting. Each layer of the stratosphere didn't take millions of years. They used to teach me that they would get the date of the stratosphere from the fossil that came out of it, and then they tell you that they get the date of the fossil by the stratosphere that it came out of. You getting it? Date the fossil by the stratosphere, then you date the stratosphere by the fossil, then you can date the fossil by the stratosphere, then you date the stratosphere by the fossil. They don't know the freaking date, dude. The Grand Canyon washed out rapidly. Okay? where it starts is lower. Starts here, it's lower than where it ends. This is magic water. Plus, at the beginning, you can see there was a big lake that's all washed out. Plus, the delta is very, 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 very small. Where did all that sand go? There would have been a delta, like a huge delta at the end of it if it was washed out over millions of years. But no, it was washed out rapidly. You see water, every levee fails, every dam fails, everything fails when it comes to water. It's just a matter of time. So you got two huge land masses breaking apart, going this way around a spherical planet. And they're touching, making mountains, making levees, making oceans. That's why the oceans are getting more salty. They never used to be salt. Every animal in the ocean had to figure out how to deal with the salt. The dolphin like excretes it out its eye. That wasn't like its original design there. It like some sort of microevolution, okay? Oh my gosh, I just said that. But it's true. It's true. I've personally taken guppies and turned them into saltwater fish with the same salinity as the ocean. Slowly added salt over a 6-month period. And then when I took the water out and I just rapidly changed it back to that, they all died. They couldn't handle fresh water anymore. And I know what I'm doing. I used to have 10 tanks in my house. Okay, I used to sell fish back to the fish store. Electromagnetic field was stronger as well. I have a weird belief that the word knows venomous snakes. There's a weird trick that people do in the Congo is if you get bit by a snake, say you get bit in the leg, you literally take a freaking taser and you shock it on site of where the snake bit you. And then you quickly after that shock between your heart and that part. You shock that, and then you shock yourself, then you wait, then you shock yourself between those 2 points. And it's weird. You'll survive. You'll survive. There was a guy who took cobras and put them in an environment that had a high electromagnetic field. 5G is coming, so maybe all snakes will be non-poisonous soon. Anyway, they put them in a high electromagnetic field, and they could no longer produce poison after that point. It wasn't that they weren't poisonous anymore. They were not poisonous from then, taken out of the environment, could no longer regain that that defense. Anyway, you got the comets there. You got the Grand Canyon. You got why the oceans are getting more salty. Animals, we know they're dealing with it. Look it up. They deal with it in different ways. You also find huge dinosaur graveyards. That's where they find all these dinosaur bones. That's why I don't really believe what they look like. I think maybe they're close, but they just find these big swirls of dinosaur bones and petrified. All that water shooting up, coming down. Imagine the pressure, because you have a whole planet covered, all that weight on these chambers of water that broke open way down. It doesn't take, I can go in my backyard and in a month I'll bring you something petrified. It doesn't take that long. You can go to Fungus Grove, they got a petrified mushroom. It don't take millions of years to make something petrified. You can go to the Quick and Easy and that little gas thing there, there's stalactites coming down over the overhang because of all the iron and stuff and the thing that's been there forever. There's literal stalactites at the Quick and Easy on the south end of Bloomington. Okay, it don't take millions of years. I mean, that Quick and Easy's been there for a minute. Been there for a minute, but it don't take millions of years. Anyway, ho ho ho, Merry Christmas. Wait, that's what Satan says, ho ho ho. God said ho ho, which is 666, the Quillipoth. There's 66 books in the Bible, you know that, but Quillipoth is a magical number. I'm not sure where that comes from. A lot of these weird things come from, let me just explain this. The Tower of Babel, when all the languages are broke up. Could you imagine if everybody spoke one language and then we're all broke up? How are we going to communicate at that point? Through symbols, right? Yeah. Through the symbols that we see, people always get into the symbolology crap. Well, there's something to it, man. There's something to the star or whatever, and the Freemasons and their women portion. Like, there's something with those symbols, dude. That's where I didn't speak a language that ye spoke, but I knew, hey, I go there because I see the symbol. It's universal. Anyway, explain that. Have a Merry Christmas.